Before we begin, take a deep breath. What would you do if the person who broke your heart left you their entire empire? Stay with me, because this story changes everything. The chapel smelled like lilies and judgment. I sat in the back pew, wearing a suit I hadn't touched in 5 years, trying to be invisible. Around me, polished heels, whispered gossip, and a sea of grieving faces that looked at me like I was a stain on an otherwise perfect day. Clara Langford was being buried today. A woman they called a pioneer, a queen, a visionary. To them, she was a symbol of success. To me, she was my ex-wife, the woman I loved and lost. My name is Daniel Reed. I'm 65, retired from the city's power plant after 30 years of honest work. I live alone in a modest apartment on Isle of Hope with a leaky faucet and too many memories. People like me don't end up in billion-dollar boardrooms. People like me get forgotten, or so I thought. I hadn't seen Clara in 15 years. Not since the divorce papers were signed and my son Nathan chose her side without hesitation. I wasn't sure why I came to the funeral. Maybe guilt. Maybe stubbornness. Maybe because somewhere deep down, I needed to see that she was really gone. Then Nathan saw me. "You don't belong here," he snapped, his voice slicing through the service like a blade.
"You abandoned her? You abandoned me."
I didn't respond, not because I agreed, but because shame has a long memory and funerals don't forgive easily. When the service ended, a man in a grey suit tapped my shoulder. "Mr. Reed," he said, "you're required for the reading of the will." He paused, then added, almost reluctantly, by name in her own handwriting. My throat tightened. The world seemed to tilt, just slightly, as if reality itself had to adjust to those words. I stared at him, sure I'd misheard. Behind me, Nathan scoffed. "Don't get your hopes up," he muttered. "You'll get nothing." He was wrong. And 40 minutes later, fate spoke. The law office was cold enough to make grief feel like a luxury. We sat around a long walnut table, Nathan at the head like a prince waiting to be crowned. Clara's sisters flanked him, eyes sharp, hands folded like they were already counting money. I took the far end near the door, the place reserved for people who might need to leave fast. Across from us, the attorney opened a leather folder and cleared his throat. "I am Martin Hollis," he began. "I served as Miss Langford's counsel for 14 years. Today, I will read her last will and testament." Nathan leaned back, smug. He didn't even look at me. "Make it quick," he said. Mr. Hollis adjusted his glasses and started. The first pages were predictable. Donations to museums, scholarships, the board's transition plan. Each line earned nods, murmurs, satisfied smiles. Nathan's grin widened with every sentence. Clara's empire, the Langford Group, worth hundreds of millions, was being carved like a roast. Then the lawyer turned a page, and everything slowed. "There is an addendum," he said, voice careful, written personally by Miss Langford 3 days before her passing. "It is addressed to Daniel Reed." Every head snapped toward me. Nathan's chair scraped the floor. "That's impossible," he hissed. Mr. Hollis didn't blink. He read, "To Daniel, if you are hearing this, then I am gone. And you are probably sitting there wondering why. You always did wonder why." My hands clenched under the table. Clara's voice echoed in those words, even without sound. Nathan laughed, bitter. "A letter doesn't mean anything. Read the assets." Mr. Hollis looked up, and for the first time something like amusement flickered across his face. "Oh, we will," he said. "But first, Miss Langford instructed me to ask you all one question." He paused, then spoke clearly. "Who told you Daniel Reed would get nothing?" Nathan's smile faltered. No one answered. The silence wasn't empty. It was heavy, like a door about to swing open. Now, Nathan's jaw tightened. "I did," he said, "because that's what Mom said. She told me he'd never touch what she built." Mr. Hollis let out a short laugh. Not loud, not cruel, just amused, like a man hearing someone confidently recite the wrong answer. "That," he said, tapping the folder, "is exactly why Miss Langford made me include this addendum." Clara's sister Marlene leaned forward. "Are you saying she lied to her own son?" "I'm saying Mr. Sizzily fried," Hollis replied. "She anticipated this reaction. She anticipated all of you." Nathan's face flushed. "Stop dramatizing. Read the will." The lawyer nodded, as if granting permission to a child. "Very well." He slid a document toward Nathan. Under Section 9, Miss Langford transfers 65% of her voting shares in Langford Group to Daniel Reed. For a second, my brain refused the word 65%. Voting shares. Control. Nathan shot up so fast his chair toppled. "No, that's not real. That can't be legal." Marlene's mouth opened, then closed. Her other sister, Judith, went pale as paper. Mr. Hollis continued, steady. Additionally, Miss Langford leaves a personal estate valued at $18.7 million to Mr. Reed to be distributed within 30 days. Nathan slammed both hands on the table. You're joking! Mr. Hollis looked at him with the calm of someone who has seen storms before. I assure you, Mr. Langford, I am not. My pulse hammered. I wasn't celebrating. I was drowning. Why? I whispered, the word barely escaping. Why would she? Mr. Hollis turned another page. She explained. You may not like it. Then he read Clara's next line, and the room froze. To the family who will call this a mistake, it is not. Daniel did not abandon me. I pushed him away because I was afraid of what I'd become, and I became it anyway. Nathan's eyes darted to me, then back to the pages, as if the ink might change. I felt every ear between us crack open, loud and painful. Right there. Nathan shook his head over and over, like denial could physically erase the sentence. She wouldn't write that, he said. She told me he left us. She told me he chose alcohol over family. The word hit me like a punch. Alcohol, that old ugly rumour. Mystical. Hollis raised a hand. Mr. Langford anticipated that accusation as well. He kept reading. Yes, Daniel drank. After I destroyed him, I watched him fall, and instead of helping, I used it to justify leaving him behind. I built an empire and told myself I was strong, but I was only running. My throat tightened. I hadn't heard Clara admit fault in 20 years. Not once. Not in court. Not in mediation. Not in the last screaming match when she threw her wedding ring across the kitchen floor and told me I was dead weight. Nathan's voice cracked. Why would she give it to him? Why not me? I'm her son. Mr. Hollis's tone sharpened because she believed you had become entitled. And because she believed Mr. Murdo Reed never stopped loving her despite everything. Nathan laughed, but it sounded broken. Loving her? He didn't even visit. He didn't call. I tried to speak, but my mouth was dry. She never wanted me to, I said quietly. After the divorce, every time I tried, she shut the door. Nathan glared. Convenient. Mr. Ratio. Hollis slid another paper across the table. Mr. Reed, Miss Langford asked me to deliver this to you personally. I stared at the envelope. My name, written in Clara's elegant handwriting. The same hand that used to write grocery lists and love notes on my lunch bag. I didn't open it yet. I couldn't. It felt like holding a bomb. Marlene finally spoke, voice sharp. This is outrageous. We'll contest it. Hollis gave a small, knowing smile. You may try. But you will lose, Judith scoffed. How can you be so sure? The lawyer leaned forward, eyes calm. Because Miss Langford documented everything. Every conversation. Every intention. Every medical evaluation confirming she was of sound mind. She even recorded a video explaining exactly why she did this. Nathan's face drained. A video? Mr. Hollis nodded. Would you like to watch it? No one answered, because suddenly they weren't sitting in power anymore. They were sitting in front of proof. Mr. Hollis dimmed the lights and opened a laptop. The screen reflected in Nathan's eyes like a nightmare. Then Clara appeared. She looked thinner than I remembered, her cheekbones sharper, but her eyes were unmistakable. Those eyes once softened when they saw me. Now they stared straight into the camera with a calm that made my chest ache. If you're watching this, she said, voice low, then I'm gone. And Daniel is probably being treated like he shouldn't exist. Nathan jerked in his seat. Mom? Clara continued, ignoring him through time. Nathan, my son, you will be angry. You will say you deserve everything. But listen, I built Langford Group, yes. But I didn't build it alone. I built it on sacrifice. On Daniel's sacrifice. My hands trembled. I remembered those early years. Night shifts at the plant, overtime, missed birthdays. Clara working in the garage, turning her first product prototypes into a business, while I kept the lights on. Clara's voice sharpened. When the company started to grow, I became someone I didn't recognize. I believed I was unstoppable, and I convinced myself Daniel was holding me back. That I needed to cut him loose to fly. Nathan whispered, that's not what happened. Clara looked like she could hear him. It is exactly what happened. The room went silent. I told Nathan his father walked away. I told him because it was easier than admitting I broke my own marriage. I was ashamed, and instead of facing it, I rewrote history. Nathan's fists clenched so tightly, his knuckles turned white. Clara's eyes glistened. Daniel, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I never said it. I never gave you the respect you deserved, and I am leaving you what should have been yours from the beginning. Control. Not for revenge, but for justice. That word echoed like a gavel. Clara's gaze turned colder. To anyone who contests this, I have made my intentions clear. And if you still choose greed over truth, the trust funds I established for you will be revoked entirely. Judith gasped. She can't. Mr. Hollis snapped. She already did. Nathan stared at the screen. as if he couldn't breathe. Clara's video ended with one final sentence, delivered like a confession. I loved Daniel Reed until my last breath, and I hated myself for what I did to him. The screen went black. The room stayed frozen. No one moved for a long moment. Even the air felt stunned. Nathan finally spoke, voice hollow. So, that's it. She hands him everything, and I just get scraps? Mr. Hollis turned the lights back on. You are not getting scraps. You are receiving a $10 million trust, plus the home in Coral Ridge, but you do not control Langford Group. Nathan's eyes widened. $10 million in a house? That's nothing compared to the company. Marlene slammed her palm on the table. This is manipulation. Daniel probably twisted her mind at the end. I didn't even know she was sick, I said. I found out today, like all of you. Mr. Hollis nodded. Correct. Mr. Reed had no contact with Miss Langford during her final year, by her request. She wanted this decision to be unquestionable. Nathan pointed at me, shaking. You're going to take it, after everything, after you disappeared. I looked at him, really looked. He was 38 now, but I still saw the boy who used to sit on my shoulders at the county fair, sticky with cotton candy, laughing like the world could never hurt him. I didn't disappear, I said. I was erased, Nathan scoffed. You're playing victim.
My voice rose, not loud, but firm. Your mother told you I left.
But I tried. I called. I wrote letters. I showed up at your school once, and the guard said I'd be arrested if I came back. She changed her number. She changed your last name. What was I supposed to do, Nate? The name Nate made him blink. He hadn't heard it from me in years. Mr. Hollis read from the page. Daniel will be offered the choice to sell his shares back to the company for fair market value. If he declines, he will assume the role of majority voting shareholder immediately. My stomach tightened. Sell? Control? Either way, my life was about to split in two. Nathan leaned forward, voice low and vicious. If you take control, they'll eat you alive. I met his gaze. Maybe. Or maybe I'll finally stop being afraid. And I was done. Outside the office, rain had started, thin and steady, like the sky was trying not to cry too hard. Nathan stormed ahead to the parking lot with his aunts trailing behind, already on their phones, already plotting. I stayed under the awning, gripping Clara's envelope so tight it bent at the corners. Mr. Hollis stepped beside me. You don't have to decide today, he said. I don't even know what this means, I admitted. I'm a retired electrician. I can barely work my phone. He gave a quiet chuckle. Miss Langford knew that. She left instructions. She also left you a board proxy until you choose whether to appoint someone permanent. I stared at him. Why me? Why not someone qualified? Because, he said, she trusted your values. She didn't trust theirs. Across the lot, Nathan turned back. Our eyes met through the curtain of rain. His face wasn't just angry, it was wounded, like a child who'd been told the world wasn't built for him alone. I swallowed. He's my son. Mr. Hollis nodded. Then don't let money be the only thing you inherit today. When I got home, the apartment felt smaller than usual. I set the envelope on the kitchen table and just stared at it for a long time. My hands shook as I finally broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet. Daniel, it began. If you're reading this, I'm gone and you're finally free of me. But I'm not free of you, not even in death. My throat closed. I sat down hard, like my knees had given up. Her letter went on, and each line felt like a door opening to rooms I'd spent years avoiding. She confessed she'd followed my life quietly, reading articles about the plant, asking questions about my health, even keeping photo of Nathan on her desk when he graduated. I wanted to call, she wrote, but I was terrified you'd answer, terrified you'd hear the regret in my voice and realize I was human. At the bottom, she added one line. Tomorrow, go to Langford Tower at 9 a.m. Ask for Elise Ward. She owes you the truth. Langford Tower rose from downtown like a monument to Clara's ambition. Glass, steel, and silence. I'd driven past it 100 times and never imagined stepping inside. At exactly 9 a.m., I walked through the revolving doors. The lobby was polished marble and cold air. A receptionist looked up, her expression shifting when I said my name. One moment, Mr. Reed. She made a call. Voice hushed. Then she stood. Miss Ward is expecting you. Elise Ward. I remembered that name. Clara's right hand. The woman who was always beside her in interviews, always smiling like she knew secrets the world didn't. The elevator climbed to the top floor. My stomach climbed with it. Elise met me in a corner office with walls of windows. She was in her early 40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes, but when she saw me, something softened. You look like her description, she said quietly. What description? Elise gestured to a chair. Sit, please. You're about to hear things you won't like. I said. She took a breath. Clara kept a file about you, about Nathan, about the divorce. She called it her greatest mistake. I swallowed. Why did she cut me out? Why did she make me the villain? Elise's jaw tightened. Because she was terrified of losing control. When Langford Group started attracting investors, they demanded she present stability. A perfect image. A perfect family. And I wasn't perfect. You were honest, Elise said. And investors don't like honest. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a folder. Clara was pressured to remove you. Quietly, they told her you were a liability. They offered her a deal. Cut you out, keep the company, keep custody, keep the brand. My chest burned. She chose the company over me. Elise looked down. Yes. And she hated herself for it. But she justified it by telling herself you'd recover, that you'd find someone else. That Nathan would be fine. I clenched my fists. Then why give me everything now? Elise slid the folder across the desk. Because investors aren't in control anymore. And because she discovered something last year. What? Elise's voice lowered. Someone in the family has been stealing from the company. Slowly, quietly. Millions. My blood ran cold. Who? Elise stared at me. Nathan. The word hit like a car crash. No, I said instantly. That's not possible. Elise didn't flinch. I wish it wasn't. She opened the folder and slid papers toward me. Charts, account numbers, transfers. Shell companies with clean names and dirty purpose. It was all there in black ink. Nathan's been moving money through consulting fees and fake vendor contracts, Elise said. At first, Clara thought it was an accounting mistake. Then she realized it was deliberate. My hand shook as I read. How much? Elise hesitated. Over 32 million across 5 years. My stomach turned. Nathan, the boy I once taught to ride a bike, had been siphoning millions like it was pocket change. Elise's voice softened. Clara confronted him. He denied it. Then he threatened her. Threatened her? My voice broke. Elise nodded. He said if she reported him, he'd destroy her reputation. He told her he'd claim she abused him, that she manipulated him. He knew exactly where to cut. I felt something sharp behind my eyes. Rage, grief, both. So she stayed silent, I whispered. She stayed silent, Elise confirmed. And then she got sick. Cancer. Aggressive. She had money. She realized she couldn't protect him anymore, and she couldn't keep protecting the company from him. I swallowed hard. So she gave me the shares to stop him. Yes, Elise said, to stop him and to make amends. She wanted someone with authority who wouldn't fold under family pressure. Someone Nathan couldn't manipulate. I stared at the skyline beyond the glass. But he's my son. Elise leaned forward. Then you have to decide what matters more. Blood or truth? My phone buzzed in my pocket, like fate had perfect timing. Nathan's name appeared on the screen. I answered. You think you won? Nathan said, voice low. You think you're some kind of hero now? Nathan, I said carefully, we need to talk. He laughed. No, you need to listen. If you step into that company, if you touch my life, I will bury you. My grip tightened. Why? Why did you steal? Silence. Then he said, coldly, because it was mine. She promised it was mine. I closed my eyes. She also promised you I abandoned you, he paused. She said you were weak. I inhaled slowly. Then she lied. Nathan's voice sharpened. And you'll pay for it. He hung up. Elise watched me. He knows you're here, she said. And if he threatened Clara, he'll threaten you. But unlike Clara, you have the power to end it. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room staring at the folder Elise gave me, listening to the rain tap the window like a warning. Every few minutes my mind replayed Nathan's voice, the venom in it, the entitlement, the certainty that the world owed him. At 3 a.m. I made coffee and stood in the kitchen, hands trembling, thinking about the last time I saw my son as a child. He was 12, crying because Clara wouldn't let him come to my apartment. I begged her to let me have weekends. She'd smiled like she was doing charity, then told me quietly that if I pushed, she'd make sure I never saw him again. She did, and now she was dead. And my son was a stranger. The next morning, I returned to Langford Tower. This time the security guard greeted me like I belonged. That alone felt surreal. In the boardroom, the executives sat around the long table, faces sharp, eyes cautious. Elise stood beside me, calm as stone. This is Daniel Reed, she announced, majority voting shareholder, effective immediately. A man with silver hair cleared his throat. Mr. Reed, with respect, I didn't expect it either, I said. But here we are. They exchanged looks, doubt, calculation, fear. Then the doors opened and Nathan walked in. His suit was expensive, perfectly tailored. His expression was fury disguised as confidence. "I'm sorry," he said, voice dripping politeness. "Was I not invited to my own company?" Elise stood. Mr. Devon's mind. "Langford, you are a beneficiary, not a controlling shareholder." Nathan's smile was razor thin. "And you," he said, staring at me, "are a mistake." I didn't flinch. "Sit down, Nathan." His eyes widened, offended, like a king being ordered by a servant. Slowly, he took a chair, but his gaze never left mine. Nathan leaned forward. "You don't know what you're doing. You'll embarrass yourself. You'll destroy everything she built." I kept my voice level. "I'm not here to destroy anything. I'm here to protect it." Nathan laughed. "Protect it from who? Me?" Elise slid a stack of documents across the table toward him. "Yes," she said, "from you." Nathan's smile vanished. He flipped through the pages, and I watched his face change. The color drained. His breathing quickened. "What is this?" he demanded. "Evidence," Elise replied, "of fraud, embezzlement, theft. Over $32 million. Nathan slammed the papers down. "This is fabricated. You can't." I leaned forward. "It's real. And if you think you can threaten me like you threatened your mother, you're wrong." Nathan's eyes burned. She was weak. The words made the room colder. I stared at him, voice quiet but lethal. "No, Nathan." She was terrified of what you became. Nathan stood, hands shaking. "You're lying. She loved me." "She did," I said. "That's why she kept your crimes hidden. She couldn't bear to see you fall. She protected you, and you repaid her by stealing from her." His jaw clenched. "You don't get to judge me. You weren't there. You didn't raise me." My chest tightened. "You're right. I didn't, because she took that from both of us." For a second, Nathan's face flickered with something almost human. Pain, confusion, but it vanished beneath anger. "So what now?" he snapped. "You call the police. You humiliate me in front of them." I looked around the room. Every executive was watching, holding their breath, waiting to see what kind of man I was. I took a slow breath. "No." Nathan blinked. "No?" I nodded. "Not yet." Elise's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't interrupt. I turned to Nathan. "You will sign a resignation today. You will step away from Langford Group. You will repay every dollar you stole, through the trust and through asset liquidation. If you refuse, I will press charges and you will face prison." Nathan stared at me, stunned. "You can't do that." "I can," I said. "I own the votes." His voice dropped to a hiss. "You're enjoying this." I shook my head. "I'm not. I'm sick to my stomach because I wanted my son, not a criminal." Nathan's eyes glistened with furious tears. "You don't know me." "I want to," I said softer, "but not like this." The room was silent except for Nathan's breathing. Finally, he slammed his fist on the table. "Fine," he growled. "But this isn't over. You think you can take everything? You think you can replace me? People will follow me. They'll laugh at you. They'll call you a charity case." I stood, slowly, meeting his gaze. "Let them laugh." Nathan's lip curled. "That's what you always were. A man who took hits and called it honor." I stepped closer. "No. I was a man who stayed quiet because I thought love required surrender. But Clara taught me something in the end." Nathan narrowed his eyes. I spoke clearly, so everyone heard. Love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. Nathan's face hardened. He grabbed a pen, signed the resignation, and shoved it across the table. Then he leaned in, voice low. "You'll regret, and when you do, you'll have no one." He walked out, the doors closing behind him at the end of an era. The executives exhaled. Elise looked at me, voice barely audible. "You just saved the company." I stared at the empty seat where my son had been. "No," I whispered. "I just lost him all over again." The days that followed felt like living inside someone else's life. News spread fast. The headlines didn't say Daniel Reed. They said ex-husband inherits majority stake. They said Shockwell overturns power balance. They said, "Who is Daniel Reed?" Pundits on television called me a mystery. Analysts debated whether I'd sell. Employees whispered about whether I'd clean house. Investors panicked. Board members scheduled meetings like I was a bomb they had to defuse. And at night, when the tower lights went out, I went home to my small apartment and sat in silence, staring at a photo of Nathan at 7 years old, missing his front tooth, smiling like the world was kind. The part that crushed me wasn't the money. It was the truth. Clara didn't just give me shares. She gave me a confession, and she made me the one to carry it. 1 week later, Elise called. "He's suing," she said. My stomach tightened. "Nathan?" "Yes, he's contesting the will." Claiming undue influence. Claiming Clara was manipulated. I let out a bitter laugh. "By me? She didn't even speak to me." "He knows," Elise said. "He's doing it to stall and to frighten you." I gripped the phone. "Let him." "Elise," I added. "I want to meet him." There was silence. Then she said carefully, "You think he'll come?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but I need to try." The meeting happened in a quiet restaurant on the riverfront. Nathan arrived late, sunglasses on, jaw clenched. He sat across from me like I was an enemy. I didn't start with accusations. I didn't start with the theft. I started with a simple sentence. "I'm sorry," I said. Nathan's head snapped up. "For what? Showing up now that the money's yours?" "For not fighting harder," I said. "For not finding a way to stay in your life." His laugh was sharp. "You didn't want to. Don't pretend." I leaned forward. "Nathan, I did. I just didn't know how to fight someone like your mother. She was smarter than me, stronger than me, and I was scared." For the first time, Nathan's expression cracked. "You're scared now too," he murmured. "'Cause you're sitting in her seat, and you know what it does to people." I swallowed. "Yes." Nathan stared out the window. "She told me you were weak. She told me you'd drag us down." I believed her. My throat tightened. "And now?" He looked at me, eyes full of fury and grief. "Now I don't know what to believe. Because she lied, and she still loved you." His voice broke on the last word, and suddenly, he wasn't a businessman. He was a son mourning the mother who betrayed him, I whispered. "She loved you too." Nathan slammed his fist softly against the table. "Then why did she do this?" I took a breath. "Because she was trying to save you from yourself." Nathan's eyes narrowed. "Save me? By stripping me of everything. By stopping you before you crossed a line you couldn't come back from," I said. 32 million wasn't a mistake, Nathan. It was a choice. He flinched like I'd slapped him. "You think I don't know that? You think I don't wake up with that number in my head?" I lowered my voice. "Then tell me why." Nathan's hands trembled around his water glass. "Because I was angry," he whispered. "Because she built that company and still treated me like a child. She controlled everything, even my failures." He stared at the table. "I watched her worship strangers at galas, then come home and nitpick my life like I was her worst investment. She promised me the shares promised me I'd be CEO, and every time I got close, she moved the finish line." I swallowed. "So you stole?" He nodded once, eyes glossy. "At first it was petty, a way to prove I could, a way to take something she couldn't take back." He looked up, rage returning. "Then it became normal. Easy. Everyone inside that building bends the rules. She taught them to. She taught me to." The words landed heavy. Clara's need for control had infected everything. Even her son. I reached across the table, but stopped short of touching him. "You're not beyond saving," I said, "but you have to choose it." Nathan's jaw tightened. "And if I don't?" "Then the world chooses for you," I replied. Courts, prison, headlines, a life reduced to a cautionary tale. He leaned back, eyes searching my face. "And what do you choose?" I held his gaze. "I choose the truth. And I choose you if you'll let me." Nathan's lips parted, as if he wanted to speak, but pride strangled the words. Finally he stood. "Don't think this fixes anything," he said. "You can't buy your way into being my father." "I'm not trying to buy it," I said. "I'm trying to earn it." He paused at the door, shoulders tense. Then, without looking back, he said, "We'll see." And he was gone again. The lawsuit hit the courts like a thunderclap. Lawyers called it a spectacle. Media called it a war. Investors called it chaos. I called it inevitable. Nathan's team argued Clara was mentally compromised. They claimed she was coerced. They painted me as a bitter ex who somehow slithered back into her life to steal her legacy. The irony was unbearable. I hadn't even held her hand in 15 years, but the truth had weight, and Clara had built it like armor. In court, Mr. Hollis presented her medical evaluations, her handwriting comparisons, the video, the letter, every detail reinforcing. One point, Clara Langford was fully aware, and fully intentional. Nathan sat at the plaintiff's table, jaw clenched, eyes hard. He never looked at me, not once. Then Elise testified. She spoke calmly about the financial irregularities, the fake vendors, the shell accounts, the transfers. Nathan's lawyer tried to object, tried to shut it down, but Elise wasn't there to attack Nathan. She was there to explain why Clara acted. She feared for the company, Elise said. But more than that, she feared for her son. She believed removing him from control was the only way to keep him from destroying his own life. Nathan's face tightened. The judge leaned forward. "Is there evidence Mr. Langford threatened Ms. Langford?" Elise hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." A hush fell over the courtroom. Nathan's lawyer jumped up. "Objection." The judge raised a hand. "Overruled." "Continue." Elise took a breath. "Miss Langford recorded the threat in a written statement. She also left a copy of a voicemail." His eyes widened in panic for the first time. Mr. Hollis played it. Nathan's voice filled the courtroom, cold and furious. "If you ruin me, I'll ruin you. I'll burn you down and everyone will believe me. It sounded nothing like a grieving son. It sounded like a predator. The judge's expression hardened. Nathan's shoulders sagged, as if the room had finally become too heavy to hold. I stared at him, heart-splitting. This wasn't triumph. This was tragedy on record. The judge ruled 2 days later. The will stood. The shares stayed with me. Nathan's contest was denied. And in the hallway outside the courtroom, Nathan finally looked at me. His eyes were red. "You win," he whispered. I shook my head. "No one wins." He swallowed hard. "Then what now?" I took a breath, feeling Clara's ghost between us. "Now," I said, "we figure out what kind of men we want to be." Nathan didn't answer. He just walked away, shoulders hunched, like the verdict had aged him 10 years in one breath. 2 weeks later, a package arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside was a small wooden box and a note written in Nathan's handwriting. "You were right. I crossed a line. I can't undo it, but I can stop digging." My hand shook as I opened the box. Inside was a flash drive and a single key. Elise met me at Langford Tower that afternoon. When I showed her the drive, her eyes narrowed. "He's giving you access," she murmured. "To what?" She stared at the key. "The storage unit." My stomach tightened. "What's in it?" Elise exhaled. If Nathan's smart, the proof. We drove to an industrial strip outside the city, a place of rusted gates and faded numbers. Unit 47 smelled like dust and regret. Elise unlocked it, and the door rolled up with a metallic groan. Inside were boxes, dozens, labelled with dates and names. Vendor contracts, offshore accounts, private correspondence. My chest tightened. He kept records. Elise stepped in, eyes scanning. Of course he did. People who steal always keep trophies. But this is him surrendering them. I picked up one box and felt its weight. Not just paper. Consequences. Years of lies, stacked and sealed. Elise looked at me. If we hand this to the authorities, he's finished. I stared at the boxes, thinking about Nathan at 7, at 12, at 38. Thinking about Clara's final act. She didn't just give me power. She gave me a choice. That night I called Nathan. He answered on the third ring, voice wary. "What?" "I got the package," I said. Silence. "I'm going to ask you once," I continued. "Are you ready to be held accountable?" His breath hitched. "I don't want prison. I don't want it either," I said. "But I won't lie for you like she did." His voice cracked. "Then what do I do?" I closed my eyes. "You come clean. You return what you can. You step away from the life that made you think stealing was love." He whispered, barely audible. "And you still want me in your life?" My throat tightened. "If you're willing to build one that's real." Yes, for the first time in decades I heard my son cry. In the weeks that followed, Nathan vanished from the headlines. No press conferences, no statements, no defiant posts. Just silence. Elise and I worked through the boxes, not to destroy him, but to map the damage and stop the bleeding. We froze offshore accounts, terminated fake vendors, and filed voluntary disclosures before regulators could come hunting. Every step felt like walking a tightrope over fire. One evening, Nathan showed up at my apartment. No suit, no arrogance, just a hoodie and tired eyes. He stood in the doorway like a man waiting to be sentenced. "I told the truth," he said. "To the auditors, to the attorney." I nodded slowly. "Good." He looked around my small living room, taking in the worn couch, the old photos, the simple life he'd never noticed. "This is what you lived in," he murmured, almost to himself. "This is what I survived in," I said. He swallowed, then reached into his pocket and set something on the table. A folded piece of paper. "I wrote this," he said. "It's an apology. Not the kind you say because you got caught. The kind you say because you finally understand." I didn't open it yet. I studied him instead. "Understanding is a start," I said. "But it's not payment." "I know," he whispered. "I'll work. I'll sell what I have. I'll repay it, all of it." The word work sounded foreign on his tongue, like a language he'd never needed. He looked up. "I don't know how to be your son," he admitted. "She made it impossible." My throat tightened. "Then we learn," I said. Awkwardly, slowly, like strangers trying to remember their family. He nodded, and for the first time, he didn't look like Clara's heir. He looked like my child. "Will you hate me forever?" he asked. I exhaled. "I don't have the energy to hate you," I said. "I only have the energy to tell the truth." Nathan's shoulders shook. He covered his face, and the sound that came out of him wasn't anger. It was grief. Pure, ugly grief. And I stayed with him. Months passed. The storm didn't disappear, but it stopped growing. The company stabilized. Investors relaxed. Employees stopped whispering in hallways. And I, Daniel Reed, the retired electrician with a leaky faucet, found myself sitting in board meetings, voting on decisions that used to feel like distant planets. I didn't pretend to be Clara. I didn't want to be. I hired people who knew more than me. I asked questions. I listened. I showed up on the factory floor shaking hands, learning names. Workers didn't care that I wasn't polished. They cared that I looked them in the eye. And slowly, Langford Group stopped feeling like Clara's throne. It started feeling like something else, something human. Nathan began therapy, court-ordered, at first, then voluntary. He sold the Coral Ridge house, liquidated assets, and moved into a small condo downtown. The tabloids called it a fall from grace. I called it a beginning. We met for coffee once a week. Not to talk business, not to argue about Clara, just to talk. Sometimes we sat in silence. Sometimes he asked about my childhood, about my first job, about why I never remarried. Sometimes I asked him what it felt like growing up in a mansion where love came with contracts. One day, he looked at me and said, "I thought power was the only way to be safe." I nodded. Your mother did too. He stared at his cup. Do you miss her? The question surprised me. I thought about Clara's laugh, her ambition, her cruelty, her brilliance. I thought about the woman who once kissed me in the rain and swore we'd conquer the world together. Yes, I said honestly, I miss who she could have been. Nathan's eyes softened. Me too. That night, I stood alone in Clara's old office at the tower, the city lights stretching like constellations. I opened a drawer and found an old photo tucked behind files. Clara and me, younger, arms around each other, smiling like fools. On the back she'd written, "Before we got scared." I swallowed hard. Clara didn't leave me money. She left me a second chance. Not just at power, but at family, at truth, at healing. And the strange part was, it wasn't the lawyer's laughter that changed everything. It was the moment my son finally stopped fighting the truth and started fighting to become someone worth loving. The first time I spoke at a shareholder meeting, my voice nearly failed me. Hundreds of faces stared up from the auditorium seats, waiting for the ex-husband to stumble, waiting for the retired nobody to prove he didn't belong. Cameras blinked like insects. The stock ticker crawled across screens in the lobby, numbers shifting with every breath I took. I stepped to the podium and looked out at them. For a heartbeat, I saw Clara's shadow in every corner, her confidence, her control, her hunger. Then I saw something else. I saw the janitor near the exit, pausing mid-sweep to listen. I saw a young assistant clutching a notebook like it was armor. I saw employees who had families, mortgages, and quiet fear in their eyes because rumors had told them the company might collapse. And suddenly, this wasn't about me. "Good morning," I began, the microphone catching the tremor in my voice. "My name is Daniel Reed. I know many of you don't know me, and some of you don't want to." A ripple moved through the room. "I'm not here to rewrite Clara Langford's legacy," I continued. "She built something extraordinary. But she also built it the way many powerful people build things, fast, sharp, and sometimes at the expense of those closest to her." The room went still. "I won't pretend I'm the smartest person in this building," I said. "I won't pretend I understand every market, every acquisition, every legal battle. But I do understand one thing." I leaned forward. "People." Heads lifted. "This company runs because people show up. Because you show up, and as long as I hold the votes, you will not be treated like replaceable parts. You will be respected, you will be heard, and the money we make will not come from fear." For the first time I heard applause. Not polite, not forced, real. It spread like fire, louder than any headline. And in the back row, Nathan stood. He wasn't clapping, but he wasn't leaving either. When the meeting ended, he approached me quietly. "You did that on purpose," he said. I frowned. "Did what?" He swallowed. "You turned them against her." I shook my head. "No, I turned them towards something better." Nathan stared at me for a long moment, then said something that chilled my blood. "You don't know the worst thing she did," he whispered. "And if you find out, you might hate her forever." I followed Nathan into an empty conference room. The glass walls made us feel exposed, like secrets could be seen from the hallway. He paced once, then stopped. "She made me sign something when I was 19, he said. "A document. She called it protection." "Protection from what?" I asked. Nathan's throat bobbed. "From you." My stomach tightened. "What did it say?" He pulled out his phone, opened a photo, and handed it to me. Across the top, in bold, were the words, "Irrevocable affidavit of abandonment." Underneath, my name. My signature. I stared. Dizzy. "That's not my signature." "I know," Nathan whispered. "She forged it. She said you'd signed it years earlier. She told me it proved you didn't want me. She made me sign as a witness." My hands went cold. "She used you." Nathan nodded, eyes bright with shame. "When I asked to find you, she'd point to that paper and say, 'See, he chose this.' And then she'd hug me like she saved me." Anger rose, sharp and clean. "Why tell me now?" Nathan's voice broke. Because I'm tired of carrying her lies, and because the investigators found it in the storage unit. If it becomes public, they'll say you conspired with her. They'll say you benefited. I exhaled slowly. Then we get ahead of it. Nathan looked up. You'd still protect her? I'm not protecting her, I said. I'm protecting the truth, the full truth, that she hurt both of us. He swallowed. What do we do? I set the phone down gently. We disclose it ourselves. We document the forgery. We make it clear I never signed, and you were manipulated. Nathan nodded once, small. And after that, I met his eyes. After that, we stopped living inside her fear. Nathan's shoulders sagged, relief and grief mixing. She always said love meant control, he murmured. Love means choice, I replied. And today, we choose differently. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he extended his hand, hesitant, like a man offering peace for the first time. I took it. Yet the disclosure hit the press like a controlled burn. A single statement, signed by me and Nathan, released before the rumors could twist it. The affidavit was forged. Nathan was coerced. The company would cooperate with any investigation. It should have been another scandal. Instead, something strange happened. People stopped calling me a parasite. They stopped calling Nathan a spoiled criminal. They started calling it what it was. A family trying to crawl out of a powerful woman's shadow. The regulators came, of course. They always do. But because we volunteered everything, because we handed over boxes instead of hiding them, the penalties were negotiated into restitution and compliance oversight, not prison bars. Nathan paid with money, yes, but more than that, he paid with his name. He resigned from every board, withdrew from every charity gala, and stepped out of the life that once fed his ego. One afternoon, he showed up at the plant where I used to work, wearing steel-toe boots like a costume he wasn't sure he deserved. The foreman stared. The men on the floor whispered. Nathan swallowed hard and kept walking. You brought me here on purpose, he said. Yes, I replied. This is where your mother's empire began, not in a penthouse. In places like this, where people sweat. He looked around, eyes wide. They don't care who I am. Good, I said. Then you can finally become someone. Nathan nodded slowly. I want to earn it, he whispered. And for the first time, I believed him. That night, I went home and fixed the leaky faucet myself. It took 3 tries and a lot of cursing, but when the drip finally stopped, I stood there smiling at the quiet. Clara left me power more. But my son gave me something bigger, a future that didn't taste like revenge. Before bed, I opened her old photo again and traced the words on the back. Before we got scared, I didn't forgive her. I didn't excuse her, but I finally understood her, and I let her go. Tomorrow, we begin. The next quarter, Langford Group posted its strongest employee retention numbers in a decade. It wasn't magic. It was boring, stubborn work. Fair overtime policies, transparent bonuses, real safety audits. Clara had always chased headlines. I chased stability. At a board dinner, one director raised a glass and said, "To Daniel Reed, the accidental king." I set my drink down. I'm not a king, I said. I'm a custodian. And if any of you forget who keeps this place alive, you can hand in your badge. The table went quiet, then someone laughed, and the tension cracked like ice. Afterward, Nathan found me by the balcony rail. The city below glittered loud and distant. You could have enjoyed that, he said. The power. I enjoyed something else, I replied. The fact that they listened. He hesitated. I never knew you could speak like that. I never knew I was allowed, I said. A month later, we visited Clara's grave together. No cameras, no family, just wind and grass, and the weight of unfinished conversations. Nathan placed a small bouquet, then stood back. I used to think she made me, he said quietly. Now I think she made me afraid. I nodded. And fear makes thieves of all of us, in different ways. He swallowed. Do you think she knew how much she was hurting me? I stared at the headstone. I think she knew. And I think she kept going anyway because stopping would have meant admitting she was wrong. Nathan's eyes filled. I don't want to be like that. Then don't, I said. That's the gift she finally gave us. The chance to choose. We stood there until the sun dropped low. As we walked back to the car, Nathan stopped. He looked at me, hesitating like a boy again. Dad, he said, testing the word. It landed in my chest like warmth after years of cold. I didn't answer with speeches. I just opened the car door for him and nodded once, because sometimes the smallest gestures are the loudest promises, and in that nod, we both started over today. A year after Clara's funeral, Langford Tower didn't feel like a fortress anymore. It felt like a workplace. The marble was still marble. The glass still shone, but the fear had thinned, replaced by something I hadn't expected. Dignity. Nathan worked quietly now, Not at the top, not on stages. He started at one of our regional sites, learning operations, showing up early, leaving late. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He earned trust in small, unglamorous ways, fixing a shipment mistake, staying with a crew through a night shift, taking criticism without flinching. One evening, he called me from the parking lot. "I think I finally understand," he said. "Understand what? That Mom didn't leave you everything because she wanted to punish me," he replied. "She left it because she wanted to stop me from becoming her." I leaned back on my couch, staring at the ceiling. "And what did she want for you?" Nathan's voice softened. "A life that isn't built on pretending. We never did become the kind of father and son who laugh easily in public. Our bond wasn't shiny. It was forged, not gifted, but it was real." On the anniversary of her death, we held a quiet meeting in the tower's smallest conference room. Elise was there. Mr. Hollis joined by video. We signed the final restitution documents, closing the last chapter of Nathan's theft and Clara's silence. When the paperwork was done, Elise looked at me and smiled. "You kept your promise," she said. "You didn't turn this into revenge." I nodded. "Clara left me control. My son gave me purpose." Nathan stood, cleared his throat, and looked at me like a man stepping off a cliff. "Dad," he said, "thank you for not giving up twice." I felt my eyes burn. "I won't," I answered. "Not again." And as we walked out together, the lawyer's laughter finally made sense. It wasn't mockery, it was relief. Because for once, the last word wasn't greed, it was grace. And I learned this. The richest inheritance is mercy and truth too.